MG, can you debug this SQL query that I developed? There's a error message here, but I cannot resolve it.
Did you develop all these SQL codes?
Yeah, that was a pain, man.
Man, that's too many SQL queries with all this mess. I cannot help you.
So what can I do now?
Instead of developing all these SQL queries, you can have a conversation with your data. I mean, you can chat with your tabular data as you have conversation with me right now.
Talking with my tabular data? He's hallucinating again. I worry about him.
No, cut. We're gonna record this part again. Listen, when you say I'm worried about him, you have to show it in your facial expression and in your vocal tone as well, right? So let's record this part again.
I can't because I don't really care about you. I'm not sure which one of us really exists in real world. Okay, now if you want to check how you can talk or have conversation with your tabular data using ChatGPT, this is the right video for you, and let's go! Hello everyone, this is MG. Welcome to another video. Well, we previously recorded 2 videos about how you can use ChatGPT and OpenAI capabilities to be able to have conversation with your data or chat with your data. While talking about data, we mainly focus on unstructured data, means text data sets or PDF files, or even some images that you have some documents embedded within the images. So we were able to develop a web application that we could chat and ask any question that we have from our text or PDF files, so on and so forth. Now in this video, as you ask, we're gonna check how we can do the same thing, I mean having conversation with your data, but this time tabular data. Let's say you have large amount of data set embedded in a SQL database. And instead of you developing SQL queries, you want to get the same outcome but without developing SQL queries. Let's say you want to ask, describe table X for me within that SQL database that I have. So the outcome gonna be there immediately like a conversational manner, of course using ChatGPT on backend and OpenAI capabilities. So if you want to check it out, how you can replace your SQL queries with a conversational based request to start chatting with your tabular data using ChatGPT, then let's check it out.
Before we start, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will get notified for the next video. Thank you. Alright, so now what we're gonna do in this video, I'm going to actually chat and again have conversation, but this time with my tabular data. Well, here is a very quick, simple UI. I'm not developing any web app stuff, just wanted to show you the flow of how I can ask any question from my tabular data, which is here a SQLite, and the results gotta be back in a conversational format without me developing and asking here any SQL based query. First of all, before I start asking any questions about my data and before I go through the codes and see all this stuff on the backend side, let's see what is my data. Well, here I have developed this sample and the GitHub repository of all the codes I'm going to execute here. I created Repo in my GitHub, and I will add the link of my repo that I have all these codes that I'm going to show you in this tutorial in that GitHub, so you can check that out. But I have developed this code and made some changes based on LangChain example and their repo. So I'm going to talk about what is LangChain stuff, but let's talk about what is the data. Well, the data that I have is actually a SQLite database. Again, I use from that sample, and in this SQLite database, first you can see there is a code in the repository. There's a .SQL code in the repository that will create this SQLite for me. So if in order to you run this manually and create all this table stuff to create this database as an example for this demo, this script is doing this for you. So if I open up .sql code that I have, if you check out again the repo of mine that I will add the link in video description, there is a file called Chinook SQLite.sql, and here's the data. So it is creating some table, again simulated data, about some artist with the artist ID and the album that they have sang their songs, the title of the album, some information about customers that they purchased those, their customer first name, last name, some more information about, let's say for example, the length of the track or song, the genre, the invoice of that purchase for a specific, let's say, song, or invoice line, media type, for example, playlist track table. So you can see I'm creating multiple tables here, and if you want to check what is the value inside these tables that we are creating, well, this sample code is then inserting the values to each table. For example, here we are inserting value inside artist table, and the values are artist ID and the name, and you can see these are fake names, of course. If I scroll all the way down, you can see all this SQL code is inserting values for the tables we specified on the top. Okay, so now I have already created a SQLite database on my machine using the SQL code, and I'm going to show you how. But now my database is there, and I'm going to use OpenAI to start query, ask questions like a chat from this data and database. Okay, again, here's a very simple UI, nothing fancy, just to show you the flow of how it's gonna work. For example, the first question that I want to ask is, I know that there's a table called playlist track for those songs, and I want to know some information about what columns I have, what is the schema stuff, but there is a SQL query for that, but I don't want to write down a SQL query. So I want to talk in a natural conversational manner, right? So I would say describe the playlist track table. Okay, nothing fancy. I click on chat, and I'm expecting the results gonna be back. Again, I'm gonna show you the backend, how it is retrieving back the info, but there you go. It is telling me your table within that database has two columns, playlist ID and track ID, and is related to the playlist and track tables. So it's telling me what is the key stuff, and even it's retrieving back as an example of some 3 rows of that table as an example with their values. Let's try another information. For example, let's ask something that needs some calculation, like merging, joining tables, do average stuff, whatever. Let's say I want to list the total sales per country, also which country's customer spent the most, right? So it needs some calculation and stuff, not just the select query. All right, let's click on chat. Let me grab some coffee until it's gonna retrieve back the results. There you go. The customer from USA spent the most with the total price. This is truly amazing. I'm not typing any SQL code here. I'm asking like how I talk as a human, and the results is back for me, not through a code, something like a human readable output. So you can certainly, when you run this demo in the GitHub repo of mine that I'm gonna add to the video description, write down any questions that you want. That I was playing around, asking different questions last night. It is really impressive. Although it is based on LangChain, and LangChain mentioned in the documentation, it is evolving. So you might not be able to ask a very complex question that runs over a complex query, but still that's a great tool and capable of doing so many casual scenarios. So there is a code in the repo that I'm gonna add in the video description called UI.py that is actually generating this very simple UI, and if you run this, you need to just replace the Azure OpenAI key value. I'm not using Azure OpenAI here, so you can just grab your OpenAI key from OpenAI website. You need to add your payment information there, and you will grab a key, put that key in the UI.py code, and just run it. it will open up this UI for you and you can start asking questions. But in order to show you how this sort of magical output is getting generated and how we're dealing with OpenAI and LangChain, let's go to the notebook.ipynb. This is also available in the repo. That doesn't generate UI, but you will see that you can ask these questions in the notebook and the result's gonna be back with chain of thoughts. Okay, let me minimize this. There you go. That's the notebook, again available inside the repo. And what I'm gonna do first, again, you need to create that database or SQLite using that .sql notebook that is available in the repo, right? So first you need to give it a name. Again, this is coming from what LangChain also used in their example. It can be any database that can be yours. Then you need to start putting some values inside that database. How? Again, using this .sql code that is coming in with the repo. And then after executing that, this is gonna create that database with the values that is generated inside this notebook. And that's it. Right now, if you want to test if your database is there, create it and you can work with it, start creating some queries. Here, for example, I asked select everything from that table and show me just the first 10. And that's it. It retrieved the result back. So that means my database is created and it has values. It was just a test. Let's go. Now what I'm gonna do, I want to ask questions about this database without creating these type of SQL queries. So let's say I want to do the same thing, but here I want to ask question like a human natural language. Okay, so let's do this. First, of course, you need to have your OpenAI key. Again, go to OpenAI website, put your payment information there, grab the key and paste it here. I remove mine. This is credential. And then you need to also make sure LangChain is installed. So I have added the instruction of how you need to install the environment ready before you run this demo in my repo. You will read that there, but just simply do pip install LangChain and then also pip install OpenAI. Make sure these two are installed, and then you can import this stuff from LangChain. So what is LangChain? Well, LangChain team said that we have now great large language models or LLM models that they can generate code, generate text. In order to make your life easier when you want to create application using these large language models, LangChain has started to create some wrapped functionalities over these large language models. One of these sort of a wrapped solution over large language models is creating a SQL agent that can talk with your SQL database through large language models, here OpenAI. So this is sort of the magic secret here. ChatGPT and OpenAI models are just language models that they can generate text. That means I cannot use ChatGPT to run a SQL query. I cannot use ChatGPT as a server for my database. So that means this is just a model that can generate text and generate code. So instead of me expecting ChatGPT to do math calculation or SQL code execution, which is not possible, it's not like an engine, like a server of a database. What you can do, ChatGPT or OpenAI models can instead generate SQL codes. And then you run the SQL codes over your own server to have the results back. So that means when I ask, for example, question, list the total sales per country, it is going to ask ChatGPT that generate a SQL code that does this for me and bring that SQL code back over a server that I have this database and run that SQL query and get the results of the SQL query back to me in a language or conversational format. So this is the trick. But you can see this back and forth has been done through a wrapped solution by LangChain. So this is the contribution of LangChain. I'm not going to customize and develop this. It's already there. I just need to connect to my database and then start asking connection. That's it. So I want to connect to my SQL database here using from UI, but again, when you run this code, it will create a .db file for you. This is my database and it is already in my local machine in my current working directory. That's why it is my local path. Or yours can be definitely anything else. And then I want to say that create an executor for talking with my SQL using OpenAI. Temperature is one of the parameters with OpenAI models, as you know. And the toolkit gonna be SQL database toolkit, database already specified on the top here, and then start talking with my database. So as of now, whatever I'm gonna ask from my database, I will say that, hey agent, execute this question. This is sort of what I added in the chat here, for example. Describe the playlist table. But here, I want to show you the chain of thought that how this conversational based question get to a SQL query and the result was back as a conversation. So when I ask describe this table, here's the action we're defining for OpenAI model. So it need to figure out first the list of the tables that you have. It got them actually. And then the first thought, this is actually based on the prompt engineering that LangChain team has done, which is great, so you can see the chain of thought. The first thing is ChatGPT is telling, well, I should look at the schema of this table if I want to describe this, right? So what is the action? I want to check out the schema of that table. For what table? Playlist track, because the user asked it. So it was able to figure out the schema of the table and even grabbing some couple of rows to understand the values of that. And then the OpenAI model said, okay, I know the final answer. The final answer is this. This is what we saw in the UI as well, right? And here's the final answer. Let's ask another question. Here I want to ask describing a table that doesn't exist. So that's going to give me an error. But OpenAI model will figure out the error reason and resolve it for me. So here again, when I ask describe a table for me, it should go to the list of all tables. It will grab them. And then it says that, well, there is an error. The table name playlist song doesn't exist. But it realized that from the list of tables, something close to playlist song exists, which is called playlist track. So then instead of throwing you the error, it go back and check that table, which was my intention, but I put it wrong here. And then it was able to actually retrieve the result back without showing me the error. So it recovered from an error. What else? The same thing that we just ran through the UI here. I want to show you the chain of thoughts. List the total sales per country and then which customer spend the most. So first it should say that, okay, I need to know the list of the tables that you have. And which tables that I want? Well, I think I need two tables. I am actually behaving like how ChatGPT works. Based on your question, I need the invoice table, you're talking about sales stuff, and customer table, because you're asking some question about customer. That's why it understood that you need to query these two. It grabbed the schema, and then based on the most spent stuff, I need to do some queries and joining these two tables, and there you go. It was able to create this query for me, do the sum, and then join it with the key. This is amazing, and it retrieved back all the results for me, and it realized that USA, the first observation, got the highest sort of, I think, spent, and that was the outcome we saw in the UI, right? So here are more examples included in the notebook. Show me the total number of tracks in each playlist stuff. The same thing, it was able to go back, generate the SQL query, and the results is back here. It said that the playlist name should be included in the results. That's why the result has the playlist name as well. Or recovering from the error, the same thing. I'm gonna ask something that doesn't exist and it is able to recover that and give me back the results. Which artist recorded the longest track? I actually added this last night and it was able to retrieve back the results for me. Or this one is actually funny. I wanted to check if I want to do or plot or do something and even generate the output in a Python code, it worked or not, and it worked actually. I said, you know what, plot the trend in length of tracks and give me the Python code of it. When I say Python code, I wanted to give me a Python code that plot the trend length. And what is the trend length? OpenAI should tell me. Then the same thing, listing tables, checking out the table needed, which is track, because I'm asking about tracks. And then it was able to figure out for me the answer. The trend length of tracks can be plotted using the following code. And not only it figure out the track length values, and also it's giving me the Python code. You can see matplotlib is a Python code, so I can, if I run this in a Python code later, it will actually give me the plot that is visualizing the trend length of tracks. So That was just a simple walkthrough and a demo how you can start talking with your Tabular data that I had in a SQLite, but it can be a generic SQL database as well. Please, 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 I would love to have your comments, questions in the comment side of the video. So please do not hesitate to ask any question that you have or suggestions for any topic, or if you see that, for example, there is a need, there is a gap that you have seen but OpenAI models still cannot fix them, write down in the comment section. We can maybe figure out the solution for that together and come up with another video. So based on your business, based on your project, I want to see still what gaps you're witnessing, that we can talk about them and potentially have more and more topic to discuss together. So I would be very thankful if you like the video and put your comments there, and I always read all of them. Thank you so much for watching the video so far.
Sometimes do something big for a stranger without any expectation for return. Dream big, my friends, believe in yourself and take action. Till next video.